born here in Harris Neck, and my father was a fisherman. He fished for crabs, he fished for shrimp, he fished uh, did oyster, pick oysters, and he worked uh, all seasons. In the wintertime it was the oysters, and of course in the summertime was the crabs, and of course in the latter part of the season, like in the fall year, he was shrimping, and so we learned everything from him when we was little old boys.
They come home and say, Mama, um, um, Daddy going tomorrow? I said, yes. He going tomorrow. We got to go. I said, yeah, you got to go. We got to go. But when it's school time, well, he don't take them when it's school time.
Myself and my oldest brother and all of us, even the girls, Daddy would take out in the boat with him, and he put us in a little box on the number two tub, and sit on the boat. And he had a little small boat, had about a 15, 16-foot boat with an 18 horsepower Wisconsin engine inboard. They built it themselves and painted the boat, and we'll help paint, and we'd get the boat in the water, and the boat would float, and we'll go out crabbing.
Then we say our prayer and we go to bed. Well, I had an old clock in there. You know how you alarm in the morning time. Daddy would alarm right 2 o'clock sometime, 4 o'clock, and they got to get up.
But Daddy, to me, Daddy was like our Superman. He knew exactly what he was doing when it came to that fishing. He was like I would say an expert at it, cause he knew the crabs, and he trained us. Me and my other brother Bronco. He just carries out in that boat and show us how to navigate that water, and that was a real good thing to know how to navigate that water, going through different channels, different rivers, knowing where those banks was at. He was real good at showing us that during the crab season. He would show us where to put those traps at.
He would even have us to grab the crab trap lines and try to pull the traps. Back in those days, they were box traps made out of wood, very heavy. Of course, we would be straining trying to pull those traps, but Daddy would show us how to do it, and he'll circle the trap, and we'll grab the buoy, and once we grab the buoy, we go to pulling. So he taught us how to do that, how to bait the hooks, and how to even build the traps. And then in the wintertime come, it was time for oyster season. And that's the time when we would go out there and it'd be cold. Daddy give us his big old boots. And we go out there with him, me and my oldest brother, me and Junior. And man, we'd be in the river with Daddy picking oysters. And we'd load that little boat down until it looked like it was about to sink. And Daddy would drive that boat from the Harris Neck rivers over here, Barber River, all the way over to Sherman Bluff. And he'd go over there and unload the oysters over there at the oyster factory over there. And there were a lot of oysters back then. They were very big, beautiful oysters. And Daddy would go out and load the boats up, and the ladies would be knocking oysters, opening oysters at the factory, and it was a beautiful livelihood. It was very productive because you know what you'd be doing from one season to the next. During the summertime, we would crab. Starting at the spring of the year, we would crab, and of course, everybody be getting ready for that. And then right after that, then we know that in the fall of the year, Daddy was a jack of all trades. He'll have his drag net, and he'll drag for a little bit of shrimp, catch shrimp, and then when the cold weather come, the wintertime come, he was out there with those oysters, and he was very good, had very big hands, and Daddy could pick oysters real fast. I'm telling you, he'd be slinging them oysters in that boat, and we just enjoyed being out there with him because it was just an experience. And then he was teaching us how to live, and so he taught us his trade. And teaching us his trade, of course, we liked it. Working for yourself, you got your own boat, and of course, you know the tide because you learned the tide from Daddy. Daddy would teach you what time to go out, the best time to go, and we'll work until the tides start coming in. When the tides start coming in, we'll quit picking oysters, start loading the boats up, jump in the boat, crank it up, and float on back out the creeks, and come on back to the hill, unload the oysters, and carry them up to the factory where we're gonna take them. But it was a very great lifestyle and very lucrative business back then. So all of us boys, we all did it.
We've been having some extreme hot days,
Warm
extreme
winters.
warm winters, and lack of rain. I think I remember back in the years, I think about 8 years ago, we hadn't had no rain. you know, and that takes a big
Mm-hmm.
impact on seafood
Mm-hmm.
because you have that water to need that rained water to
Set the
freshen,
temperature.
yeah, freshen and take that salt out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it have been a big difference, you know, because you can see it in the crabbing now. It's not like it used to be. You don't go out there and take I think Dad's had more than about 80, 90 traps and come back about
Right.
2,000 pounds of crabs.
Right.
Whereas now you can have guys with about 200 some traps and maybe come up to about five, six, maybe come up to about 400 pounds of crabs these days. It's not a
Mm-hmm.
whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see a big. I have been a big change.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the oysters are a lot more different too, far as size wise.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah, back then you had more single oysters.
Mm-hmm.
You know, today, we don't have a whole lot of singles.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of cluster oysters. We pick like maybe like it'd be like 2 to 3 oysters on an oyster that we pick today. Whereas back then, you could probably pick a single oyster, but it takes you so long to get a single bushel of oyster. You probably might work a whole stage of tide. You might get about
No,
3 bushels on a
yeah.
whole stage of tide, and that's a lot of work.
Back then.
Yeah, back then yeah, you go there. I think my brother was telling me they go back in on one stage of tide and pick like 18 bushels
Yeah.
of nothing but single
Single oyster.
oysters.
Well, the biggest change I've seen, and I think it has a lot to do with the change of the weather, because I can remember when winter came, it got real cold, and it would get so cold sometimes till Daddy would have ice in the boat. Had a little wooden boat, and water was, little water leak in the boat, and that salt water would freeze. It'd be cold. I mean, I remember the time it'd be the marsh when the tide drops out. There'll be ice in the marsh, and that always helped the oysters. The colder it got, the fatter the oysters got. They love cold weather, and the harder it gets, the less fat they are. They get real stringy, watery. So we wait for the cold weather. When the cold weather came, the oysters just and then when the tide washes out, I guess because that mud be cold, it breaks up and then it washes off the oysters. And so that you could find oysters, you can pick one bed Monday and go back Thursday and find more oysters because the mud will wash them off. And by you walking on the beds and trampling the mud, and mashing up and breaking up, it washed off with the tide. The tide will wash it off when the tide come in and go out. Wash the mud off. You go back, you'll see other oysters sticking up, coming out of the mud. So they be growing all the time. And I know it's because the weather changed on us. A lot of the beds that used to be beds that you can go and find nothing but oysters, the mud just covered it up. And as a result, the oyster bed died. And it's because of that mud. And I think it's because of the unseasonal weather we've been having. So that's the change. It's not like it used to be. Some of the places are still pretty good where we used to go pick at, but a lot of places have changed. It is a difference. It's a big difference. Even with the crabbing now, there's not as much crabs as it used to be. We used to go certain places and the crabs will be there. You go there now, they won't be there. It used to be now. We used to put our trap in the water at the low water mark, and I think you know all about that. So as long as your boat can float, you go there and you pull your trap. Well, now you got to put it up in the marsh, way up in a little creek somewhere, as far as you can go up in that creek, and you got to go on high tide to pull the traps. Because if you don't go on high tide, you can't get to your traps. But you put them in that water, down at the low water mark, you won't catch anything.